Wright Improvement Group, TWIG's Leadership Masterclass. And I do these segments because from my vast years in the military, actually did 28, and we know, hey, time flies, right? It flies really fast. So one of the things that I like to do is not only share my experiences, but I like to also just leave nuggets out there for folks that are going through the challenges or the success of being a leader or being a team member. It's important to share these things in a non-biased manner. I have nothing to gain. I have nothing to lose with these type videos, other than someone learning something a little different from a different perspective and to take different considerations in how they manage their day in the business world or even personal, right? I think it's important that we share this every opportunity we get. Of course, the Wright Improvement Group, TWIG, we are a unique company where we don't dump our principles and ways on you, but we help you, the leader, the company, the team, the organization, do what you do better. How do we do that? Hey, we get in there, do a good business needs assessment, determine your strengths and weaknesses based on a collaboration, that us working together. It's never finger pointing, never finger pointing, because every business has its own unique dynamics. And one of the things at TWIG, what we do, we make sure that we give good hands-on and we go in there and help you determine your principles, you know, your foundation, your pillars that best suit you and your business model and your business dynamics, period. So we'll never say, hey, do it TWIG way. No, no, no. We're here to help you and your team and company do what you do better, period, hands down. Which is kind of unique, right, in the business sector today, or even when we see anything going on right now. It's almost where a lot of times we encounter uh, the approach of having to meet somebody else's business or personal or principles and adopt them as yours. No, we want to. Twig wants to help you create your own. So that way, when we're not there, you know how to troubleshoot. You know how to fix it. You can implement those good checks and balances to make better products and services or improve your products and services you provide for your customer. So contact Twig, the Right Improvement Group, and you will see, you will see that it was the call you were supposed to make. Okay, so now let's get back to this master class. And I want to cover team building today and the dynamics of building a good, efficient team. For one, when you build a team, man, that leader has to be balanced enough that they can handle folks from all walks of life, right? And I give you this story of when I was in the military, when I first went in. I think I mentioned it before, and when I was doing one of my book tours, that it was a thing to where when I first got there, you know, when I say first got there, it might have been a week-ish that went by. It wasn't long, I can tell you that. As a matter of fact, it didn't. Hey, it was not long. Where Corporal Forbes came and gave me that stack of books, already had them in order, and said, "Hey, Private, start reading these. I'll get back with you." And me being bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, uh, I think I'd been in the military with basic training, AIT. What basic training is 8 weeks. AIT was about a month. Yeah, about a month, 4 weeks. And I think I shipped out February. I got to Germany in February. Um, and by the end of February, I was knee deep in books, learning hands on. And that's one of the things that he taught me. And growing up, you know, you get different dynamics of folks in your family leading you and directing you and mentoring you to a point. But one thing that that corporal taught me was when you read it, go do it. And while you're doing it, I'll explain to you what you're doing so you have a better grasp And that way you can have the ability to troubleshoot if you catch yourself in a tight spot or where you're at a standstill and don't know what to do. You can go backwards and troubleshoot and find that path forward. And that's an important dynamic that I'll never forget. And I've always taken that approach to anything. Hands-on is critical. And not only accomplishing your task and learning and growing, but when you lead others. And, and guess what? Minimizing the assumptions we make about people, because like when I go back to Corporal Forbes, you would never think he knew anything by the way he looked. Like he didn't really iron his uniform, scrubby and stuff coming in, not well groomed. You would say, man, now if I looked at him and I thought about him like, man, he can't teach me anything because he doesn't look the role. How many times do we do that in our lives, in our careers? We look at somebody and say, nah, I don't want them teaching me anything because they don't look the part. Um, and then on the other flip side of that, we'll go with somebody that looks the part, but man, we don't really get a lot out of it. A lot of jibber jabber and quotes and things, but never that deep dive of information. And that, guess what? Corporal Forbes, he didn't look, but boy, you talking about going down the rabbit hole, hands on, deep diving, making sure I understood it, and then tested me on it, performance measures, and also ask additional questions. Okay, what if this happened while you were here? What do you do? And I had to just tap into what I had learned, what I was told, and kind of just logic, right? And whenever I was wrong, or whenever I didn't have the answer that it was supposed to be, he taught me the why of it. And today, I think that's one of the dynamics that we really need to go back to is that hands-on training, mentorship, guidance, and development. And that's one of the good things about the Wright Improvement Group. That's what we're going to do with everybody. High quality, hands-on conversations, approaches, considerations, perspectives, hands-on, where not only do we collaborate and partner with the organization and team, uh, but we build that trusting relationship. So this master class going over the team building dynamics, and I want you to think about the teams that you were involved with throughout your career or your life, right? Even the family teams and how they intermingled, how they grew, how they uh, internal teams, right? You've seen that before where you have a team, but you have internal teams. I think sometimes we call them cliques, where within a team you have a certain amount of folks that take care of themselves and really not giving that same effort to everybody in the team. Right? It happens. And that's why I said from the very beginning, you have to have a dynamic leader that can lead teams in an unbiased way, where the standard is across the board, no matter what. Um, because I've seen it to where, man, and I can think about, yeah, I'm bringing the military up again, but think about that. You have people from all walks of life, the hills, the desert, other countries, um, by the ocean, from the big cities, from the middle of nowhere, right? And you have to get on that same mindset to accomplish that task of that unit, of that organization. And man, it could be very challenging for a leader to communicate from the standpoint of being neutral, right? Non-judgmental. That could be a challenge, and that's why I say it takes a dynamic leader to lead a team. Um, and one of the things, well, some of the things I noticed about teams as I've come up based on my experience is uh, I don't know how many leaders I've had. Man, if I would say, if I had to put a number, I'm talking about first line supervisor, leaders type, 15 to 20 in my life. And that's probably more than that. Man, I'll just say 15 to 20 for now. 15 and above. I've had more than 15 because being in the military, you move and you go you have a different person, or you're in a unit and your leader changes out, the leadership changes out, so you get a new leader. So I say well more than 15. So you can imagine the experience from all those people um, leading me, developing me, or giving me the idea of what a leader should be. So I'm definitely experienced. Like I said, at 28 years military and another 10 years or so um, DOD, and then quite a few years in the healthcare sector, leading in the healthcare sector with training and different things. So I say that because, man, that leader has to be level across the board in a manner to where it's like bland, right? And I say bland not as in actions, but bland and not taking sides, because it's not about the people when you're developing. It's about the system. You're supporting the system you're in and making sure that system is successful. Um, and a dynamic leader sees that, and they make sure that, hey, you know what? No matter how many things we have in common, golf, basketball, football, um, couch potato, swimming, um, TV shows, no matter what we have in common, that will never influence my leadership of you. Because it's not about me, it's about the organizations I support. And it's about their mission on what they support and what they provide for the customer. Critical. That has to be, from my Mr. Wright, Lee Wright's point of view, it has to be where those things never come or cross the line with leading a team. It has to be that. Um, Now, that doesn't have anything to do with knowing your team, communicating effectively with them, understanding they're from different walks of life, creating that trusting relationship where it's open communication. Those are two different things, because you, as the leader, it's what you do to make sure that they stay within the mindset of supporting the organization that you serve, we serve, right? That's important to stay on message of that, um, and never allow commonalities to cross over into that. I've been with organizations that, man, I think me and Melvin was talking one time, pressure leadership. Hey, you either get it or you don't. If you don't get it, hey, I'm sorry. When I've been with organizations that structured leadership. Hey, if you don't get it, we're gonna make sure you got it. We're going to make sure you get it. Why? Because it's critical that you understand every dynamic of the system that you're in. So we're going to train you through those processes and develop you. And kind of like we talked about pressure leadership, usually when it's pressure leadership, and based on Melvin's experience and mine, the leadership that you serve and you support really don't have a strength in training in developing folks. They want you already cookie cut, go get it. Yeah, guess what? Certain organizations are like that, and that makes sense. But also, certain leaders in those organizations do that pressure when it's not required by the organization. I've seen it to where the organization is kind of kumbaya, let's do this together. We can get there. Come on, let's do it. And then within that organization, you have these leadership teams or these leaders that put pressure on their teams, right? Their team members, and that could be biased or non-biased, depending on the leader. That's not a conversation we'll have now. Maybe in the future. Um, but one of the things about developing a team, you have to have that dynamic leader that's willing to sacrifice personal biases or personal um, accomplishments or things that they personal goals, we'll call it that. Uh, Sacrifice those and never let those wash over into building that team. And one of the things that I said before is that you have to want to be a leader that cares. You have to want to be a team member that cares for the team as a whole. and cares about the products and services that the team collectively provides. You have to care and want to do that, right? Um, so that dynamic leader. Now, guess what? You have to want to be a member of a team. So that's why, I'm talking leadership in this leadership masterclass, and we're going over team building. So we kind of discussed a little bit about team building and some of the dynamics that help support it. So now let's go into one layer higher. And I know I'm summarizing, but we're talking about team building. Now let's go one layer higher. Leadership teams. That's not a word you hear a lot in today's industry. Leadership teams. And what is my definition of a leadership team? It might be the industry definition as well. Leadership teams are, I'm gonna call it two or more leaders, say 2 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it doesn't matter. But they're all leaders of something inside that company or organization. And those leaders have team members under them, right? So leadership teams. Now this is where it comes into where being a dynamic leader of a team. Now also you are a member of a leadership team. Think about what that leader of the leader of the leadership team needs to be. Because the industry, the world, media, everybody says you need to be a leader. In order to be a leader, you got to do these things, right? Now just imagine the strong uh, personal traits or things these leaders have. Like, hey, I'm the standard of the leader, right? I am what a leader is. So you can imagine the probable conflict in that. Everybody wants to lead. Look at me. Um, I'm better than him. I'm better than her. Look at me, sir. Look at me, ma'am. I can show you that I'm better. But I think it goes right into being a team member. You have to humble yourself and make it not about you in that leadership team because it's not. It's about the company goals. It's about making sure communication is balanced, where everybody's voice is heard within that leadership team, but also within the team, right? It's a critical thing to where we have to establish the checks and balances, processes, and procedures that building teams in order to be fair across the board. There is a requirement for each leader to have a non-selfish approach to leading. Now, I know that's challenging today. I know it's challenging. I know it's challenging, man, because if you're not leading, you're following, and following is not the cool thing to do. Look, just hey, don't take Lee's word. Pull up, go on LinkedIn, go on any of these sites, business sites or anything. Man, how often do you hear, hey, this is what a good team member is? But how often do you hear, hey, these are the 25 leadership principles you should follow to be a good leader? These are the leadership traits. These are the types of leadership. A leader should be a leader, a leader. Now, back in the day, they used to say you got too many chiefs, and everybody's scraping to be that head chief. Um, but a good dynamic leader, man, he understands that and creates that requirement to where no, we're not doing that. This is what we're doing. We're going to standardize this process, and me as the leader of leaders, at no point will I ever take sides on any of my leaders and allow my leaders within that to create their own internal teams that are not inclusive of all the leaders. It takes a strong leader to be able to do that, because some of it you have to get over, or you have to understand the dynamics of human nature. Human nature will cause us to have commonalities and and grow closer to the folks or the things we have in common with others. So we have to accept that as, hey, I'm going to run into this because I know I'll be able to have a conversation with one of my leaders, and we are clicking. We are jiving and clicking, man. And sometimes that can build a trust that where trust shouldn't be. Because as we know now, I always 180 degrees. People can use commonalities as a malicious path to their goals. We have to say that because it's the truth. If we don't acknowledge that in what we do, then we're fooling ourselves. And if we're fooling ourselves that somebody won't do that, then that same person that's using that malicious intent can create a toxic environment to members of the team. And then that grows and it starts to spread. Then you have all the leaders and team members, hey, they self-preservation. Hey, save yourself. Abort, save yourself. Um, I don't want to, I'm part of this team, but man, this team is not part of me. Let me say that. I'm part of this team, but man, this team is not part of me because I don't have a safe space. So I have to protect myself because I have my own personal responsibilities. So it's always a 180. And that's why I say it takes a dynamic leader to be able to lead leaders. And then it takes a dynamic leader to be able to lead teams. Um, and it's a lot of things out there. I think one of the things that that I kind of, and this is me, my opinion, uh, and one of the quotes was emotional intelligence. And I don't know if those two words go together because I think to me, it's saying either you are smart enough to handle your emotions, and if you're not intelligent. You are smart enough to be able to intertwine with an organization's business dynamics. Now think about that. So if they say emotional intelligence to me, and I have a system where my leader may not be as dynamic enough to handle leaders or to handle teams, is it my emotional responsibility to ensure they do and provide a work environment that grows my emotional intelligence as defined by that organization? Because each organization has a different operational definition of emotional intelligence. And how deep does that go? Um, and is the emotional intelligence being applied to me, to you, or is it something that's just expected of you? So just think about that as we put words on things, and those words are required dynamics that a leader should have to be successful in an organization. I think we have to be careful as we label and title things, because one of the things I talked about before is that the human nature is not designed to live in a cookie cut, be boxed in, right? So we have to be careful as we label things and make those things we label a requirement. Man, I'm thinking I never said that before. I'm part of a team, but my team is not a part of me. That's pretty wow. Um, think about that. I know it's different for each individual. What makes your team a part of you? What makes you part of a team? And I'm not talking about just I'm a part because I'm in the organization. I'm talking about a true connection. What? Now we talked about block checkers. So think about that. Now, as we think about that, what can you do to be a better team member? Right? We talked about building teams. We talked about leadership teams and those dynamics. Um, what can you do to be a productive, constructive enhancer of a team? You, me, what can we do? And so as we do that, we have to understand the diversity of a team, right? And I'm not just talking about male, female, black, white, Asian, uh, from overseas, from the Northeast to Northwest, not those dynamics. I'm talking about how they perform their job dynamics, how they communicate within the team amongst each other. You know, you can have an IT team, you can have an HR team, you know, you can have a product team. All these teams, multifunctional teams within an organization. How do they communicate? And most of the teams communicate in a manner based on their leadership. Or there are a few things that all the teams should have in common. I don't know how many, I won't say total, but it's probably an endless number based on the organization. I think the team should, no matter what, have clear, concise communication and messaging, being on brand, and never compromise on that. Where it's not optional that we communicate clearly, respectfully, and as humble as possible across teams because it's the company's goal, right? The company's product. The teams are creating the products and services that they sell to their clients or they make available to their clients. So that stricter communication across the board, clear, concise, bright ideas, right? So if I have a bright idea that if I'm in the product area or the service area, I might have a bright idea for IT. Hey, IT, hey, is it possible you guys, y'all can come in and kind of take a look at this? Yeah, it's a bright idea I had, and it's not stepping on anybody's foot. It goes directly into the leader, right? The leader should be able to say, that dynamic leader, hey, if anybody in this organization give you a bright idea, let's table it. Let's get it on the table. Let's put it on the board, the bright idea board, and talk through it. And let's have that person that came up with it in here with us so they can kind of, explain what they were talking about to us. And yeah, I think that clear, open, honest communication across those teams is critical for organizational growth, for organizations to grow. I think it's critical for organizations to grow, and to create that balanced work environment, right? Because we know work environments go up, down, but it's kind of like that band of excellence, just right there. And if an organization has that type structure, when someone changes a job, when you have new employees, when somebody's getting promoted within the organization, they're going to go into that development phase that gets them online with the company mission, the team dynamics, the leadership dynamics that don't waver. This is what we do. The only way a leader can personalize that standard is just within that, right? I said a second ago, you can't keep them in the box. No, you can't. But you can allow them to personalize it and go to that within that band of excellence because, like I said before, if we over personalize it, we can create biases in there. We can create those teams that are cliques and different things, which we want to avoid at all costs, right? Because it's not fair. It's not fair to have cliques in an organization that's kind of doing their own thing. And when you have cliques in an organization, they hire people to maintain the clique. They don't hire people to go against the clique. Hey, when you come in here on board, and when I interview you, I'm interviewing you to see if you fit in the clique. Think about that. That's a practice. Let's not get that misunderstood. That is a practice. That is a practice. And we want to break that practice up every chance we get because people deserve the best. Non-biased leadership that's dynamic and helps them grow at all times. We talked about team building. We talked about leadership teams. We talked about team dynamics. It's important to know that the Wright Improvement Group, we help companies do what they do better by providing that good hands-on collaboration. So I say to you, when you need someone to come in there and give a non-judgmental assessment of your organization, TWIG, the Wright Improvement Group, is the company to call And I say that because a lot of times in today's industries, they want quick, fast. Hey, we need it now. We need it done. We need it to look good. We need it to represent. But if you know, and you've been part of this long enough, sometimes quick is bad because everybody doesn't get a grasp on the process and expectations of the process. So it might look good for a hot second. Yes, we checked all the blocks. We did it. We're here. We had this training. They came in. We got these new systems. But give it a couple months and the systems start to deteriorate because you might be working somebody else's principles. And that's what TWIG takes pride in. We don't dump our principles on you. We help with collaborations to improve the principles that you have. So I want to thank you for tuning in to this quick masterclass of team building. Remember, click the link below, start that business needs assessment, get us in there, and let's have a good collaboration. Thank you.